Good afternoon, and thanks for joining me. This is Less is More, and I'm your host, Leslie Reed. At Less is More, we want to speak to you about the issues and concerns of our day, but we want to speak to you in a way that is spiritual, but also allows you to deal with things practically. We'd like to help you to further and be better in your well-being and give you what we call a faithful prosperity. Thanks for joining us. Last week, we brought my good friend Bill Benjamin, who is running for Sheriff of Marion County, Democratic candidate for Sheriff of Marion County. Vote May 8th for Bill Benjamin, Sheriff, Marion County. And we left off our conversation, Bill, talking about human trafficking. We talked about a lot of different things, but I told you I wanted you to come back to that because this, I think it's an issue, Bill. I think it's something that people think about, but maybe not so much as to how much of it is going on, if that's fair to say.
You know, human trafficking is one of the most expensive crimes in the world, stretching across our globe at around 16 billion or so a year, as far as humans being captured, accosted, and then sold to other states, other countries, other cities, and it really, you know, spans from a small child to teens and perhaps some young women and young males up into their 20s, in their late 20s.
Wow.
And it's something I'm going to focus on because the Sheriff's Department oversees the sex offender registry, and this type of crime falls right into that category. And there's been very little attention paid to it by the Sheriff's Office. A lot of people don't know we have the #1 rehab facility in the nation right here in the outskirts of Indianapolis called the Hope Center. And we have young ladies there who have been victimized from human trafficking crimes and were able to escape, and now they need to be rehabilitated to go back into society. And it's right here in Indianapolis on the far southeast side of the county. So I plan to work with them when I become your sheriff of the county to help prevent, solve, and possibly capture some of those perpetrators in this heinous, serious crime.
Bill, that's interesting, and I want to talk about homicides because I don't think we get away from this, and given your record, I think we would want to talk about homicides. But I think it's important, though, and you mention it a lot of times when we're out, about what you're going to do relative to the inmate population in prisons, those that are incarcerated, and how they end up there for mental health reasons. Maybe they should be somewhere else. And I don't know if I'm phrasing that the right way, but expound on this issue of mental health at jails and what you plan to do about it.
Well, the Marion County Jail is the largest mental health facility in the state of Indiana.
Now, let me say this. I bet you people don't know that. I bet you most of the people really don't know that.
They don't know that. About 40% of the population, both male and female, have mental illness issues. The problem with mental health is the police and deputy sheriffs out in the field, they only have, really right now, one resource when they run across a person that's not acting in what we call normal. They will arrest them for PI, which is public intoxication.
Right.
And all of a sudden, once they get inside the walls of the jail and behind the bars, they determine that this person has mental illnesses. And there's not really a treatment facility in the Marion County Jail to treat those type of folks with those type of issues. Well, there's a pilot program out east with IMPD running called MCAT, where there's a psychiatrist, a police officer, a medic, and I believe a chaplain or a social worker. And when an officer now comes across a person like that out in the field that has some issues, they don't take them to jail. They take them to Eskenazi, where they can be assessed and analyzed, where they can get those mental health services, and they're not in the walls of the Marion County Jail. Well, that's a pilot program. Well, they need to go ahead and expand that to all the districts in the city. And I would like to have that same type of MCAT team with my deputies when they're out in the field. it will help reduce the mental uh, the inmates that have mental illness inside the walls of the jail, because they will be receiving the medical treatment that they need outside of the walls.
Well, Bill, when you've talked about this, because I was really surprised, by a number of things you spoke about, and even this issue of just people with public intoxication and/or mental health issues that just kind of put in jail.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it just didn't seem humane. It seemed inhumane, and it seemed like an issue that should have been more addressed and brought to the front. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of this.
I was trained years ago, 34 years ago, just PI them to eliminate the problem that's out there. PI meaning public intoxication arrest.
Right.
And I too probably have arrested those who've had mental illnesses under public intoxication. It was legal,
Right.
and I took care of the problem at that time,
Right.
because that person was a nuisance.
Mm.
And so the older I got, the more I got into leadership and solutions. It's clear that a lot of folks don't need to be in jail. They
Right.
need full wraparound mental health services. And you're definitely not going to get them in the Marion County Jail as it stands right now.
Right.
You can't get them in treatment facilities outside the jail.
Well, Bill, and to me, and this show is on Christian radio, and that to me that is a spiritual matter, and the Bible speaks of reasonable service. To me, that's just reasonable. Let's help people that we should help. Everybody shouldn't be in jail and then get a record and have to go down this other long road
Right.
not to get a job. Let's
Right.
do what's the Christian thing to do and help them.
Right.
We'll shift gears, Bill, with it for a minute, and I want to make sure we get to homicide, but want to add to this by talking about your plans for youth. You speak about the POW Club. I think it's very important. Share a little bit of that with us.
The POW Club works. I spent 5 years of my career at IMPD, either a POW Club officer or a POW Club supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And the main goal of POW Club is to take a child that's around age 8. We don't want to babysit children.
Right.
But we want to take a child in around age 8.
Mm-hmm.
And if that young person, whether it be male or female, wants to stay in the police athletic league, there's programs, there's sports programs where a deputy will tutor, mentor, monitor, coach, and perhaps discipline to keep that child on the straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate goal is to get that child to graduate from high school. What better friend to have for a child than a police officer or a Marion County deputy, where a child can look back and say, that's my friend, and he's coming to my game tonight because I've got a middle school basketball game or something like that. Boy, it makes the child feel great. And let's face it, some of our children in Indianapolis have never been outside the 465 loop.
That's right.
They only know the area that they know. And the POW Club, when I ran it, we took kids to Philadelphia, we took them to D.C., we took them to Disney World or Orlando.
Right.
And those children now are men and women with families and remember those days.
Right.
And remember the messages on those trips that we were giving them, and remember the things that they've seen. They've got great jobs, and their children are now in high school. Some of the young men that I coached, and they remember me as Sergeant Benjamin. You're stuck where they remember you.
That's right.
And it can work. It has worked, and it needs to be brought back to the Marion County Sheriff's Office. They once had a strong police athletic league with children, and then when we merged, they threw it by the wayside. Mm-hmm. And I want to bring that back. That's something that helps criminal reform. You take a child and teach that child the way to go, they won't result back into crime, or they'll be so busy that they won't even think about crime.
Well, it's interesting, and I like that because you mentioned something related to that a little bit ago, or maybe I've even heard you as we've been in churches about the things that keep, like if you cut down murders, you cut down rapes, you cut down this.
Yeah.
Well, certainly I'm hearing you say, I believe, that if in fact we got to kids early, gave them something constructive to do, mentorship and some positive role models, that would help in the long term too. And to me, again, that is a Christian value. Homicide is an important issue, and I'm directly looking at the camera for this reason. While we talked about a lot of issues with Bill, I believe, and I hope I'm saying this right, you're really running mostly about homicide, the rise of gun violence in our town, and the increasing number of deaths by homicide in our town. And I'm amplifying this because I believe this is where, as we would say, is pay dirt. I want you to speak to that.
We are now on pace to set another murder record. We are 11 murders ahead this time last year than this time last year. We keep breaking murder record after murder record after murder record. We're on pace for 200 murders this year. Something needs to be done. That's also coupled with aggravated assaults. So if a person's not murdered, then they're injured severely, and may very well be handicapped from violence.
Right.
All those things have to stop, and I say this all the time. And it works like this: you catch a murderer quickly, the crime slow down because the criminals think that you're everywhere. The robbery slow down, the rape slow down, the burglary slow down because they think that you're everywhere because you caught that murderer quickly. And it's only a small percentage within our population that's committing these crimes, 12 to 13% of what's here in Marion County. When I was deputy chief of police and investigations, we had an 81.5% clearance rate. Currently, the clearance rate right now is around 38%.
When you say clearance rate, say that
that means that every 100 murders that occurred, we captured 81 criminals that committed those murders.
Wow.
That was the highest in the nation. And now we're down to around 38 to 40%. So you've got a 60% chance of killing here in Indianapolis and getting away with it. And if that continues to happen at that rate, if you don't solve these homicides quickly, more are going to occur because of the retaliation factor. Mm-hmm. Police didn't catch them, we'll get them. And it continues to grow that way. And that's why we're having these murders continue to happen, and many of them are linked.
Bill, that's a whole lot. Now, I want you to make me a promise right now. Bill's promised me, y'all, that he's coming back after the primary as he moved on into the fall election where he's going to be our next Marion County Sheriff. But I think it's important for me to comment here. Obviously, I thank Bill for coming, but I sort of think when I talk to Bill, and this is an article that I wrote some time ago, but it begs the question of, does democracy have a conscience? And when I talk about democracy, I'm speaking about, Bill, about this whole issue of politics. Politics is about democracy. Even the dirty, stinky part, we have people in Washington, I'm not going to say any names, you know who I'm talking about. The greatness of our country is that he could run for politics and voice himself. Right. So the good, the bad, the ugly comes from it, but we're fighting for that. And what I want to suggest to our listeners, and I have no reservation about this, we need help with this homicide issue in our city. We need help, Bill, with youth and them having something to do. We need help. We need to cut out this gun violence. And, of course, we've worked with Brandon Warren and some of the others and some of the marches to end this. But we start, as Jeffrey Johnson, Pastor Johnson said so well, politics are local.
Yes. And
we're in Marion County. And Marion County, I believe that in Bill Benjamin running on the Democratic side for sheriff on May 8th, Bill, that we're going to get that. And we're going to get a chance for things to go well. Bill, leave them with a quick line before we leave.
Quick line is that early voting is going on right now. You can go down to the clerk's office and get your vote in between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. all the way up to May 7th. But on May 8th, the polls open all across the county. I need you to vote for Bill Benjamin for sheriff. Bring a friend or two or three or four and spread the word.
May 8th, vote for Bill Benjamin. As always, we'd like to thank our partners, RIM Group, Registered Investment Advisors, the Foundation for Financial Competency. My good friend Bill Benjamin, thank you, sir.
Sir, thanks for having me.
Vote on May 8th, vote Bill Benjamin. Whatever you do, vote. God bless you. Peace.